This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your source for the latest Iowa ag news headlines right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, Mark Magnuson, and Andy Peterson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Dustin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Huffman. Today is Friday, the 27th of June, 2025. We're so glad you could join us here today. Coming up later on in the program, I'll talk with Curt Kimmel of agmarket.net to find out what happened in the grains and the livestock trade today. But first, we're going to have the first part of our sit-down of our monthly chat with Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Naig. We're going to talk today a little bit about crop conditions and also talk about some of the federal policies that are having impacts on Iowa producers. So lots of things to talk about here today. And why don't we start with, where we're at right now. We're getting some rain here this growing season, a nice amount of rain that, some people are saying even if it would shut off, at the end of the summer or second half of the summer, we might still be in some pretty decent shape and crop progress numbers have been good. Let's just talk about what we're seeing across the state right now.
Yeah, that's right. You start to calculate, hey, now if it did shut off, how many weeks out could we go? And certainly May and June are our wettest months, where we expect to get, close to an inch of rain per week. And we've had a more active weather pattern. Of course, if you look at the short term, it looks like we're going to be warm and still that active pattern. There is a signal coming as you get out into July for it to dry off just a little bit. But we've gotten some much needed rain in parts of the state. Southwest Iowa, I know, was very, very dry, and they got some significant rain here over the last few days. And actually the drought monitor that just dropped, I was just looking at it. In fact, we've actually seen, as you would expect, a pretty dramatic, substantial improvement in the drought situation. Again, because of that really active and pretty widespread rain that we've seen over the last week or so. Now, unfortunately, it has come with some severe weather in places. We ourselves up in Northwest Iowa, Palo Alto County, did deal, unfortunately, with some hail and some high winds, a pretty narrow band, but it's still out there. So that's always, unfortunately, part of that active weather pattern does bring some hail. But I'd say, again, this has been an important stretch here. Need to see that rain continue to fall. And you start to think about what's it take to finish this crop off, and a couple of really good timely rains here through the month of July, and maybe a good one right around the state fair. And you're starting to put the finishing touches on something.
And we've been, I know you've been traveling around the state, and we've been out there too. And you definitely see, though, there's a noticeable difference between who was able to get in April and who had to wait till maybe into May. But of course, all that catches up in the end anyway.
You're so right. I think that early planting, was definitely, there was a premium. There was a benefit for that. But I've been in the, far southeast corner. I've been to way up in north central, northeast. There is, as there always is, variability, right? Some folks did get a little dry, and some folks were a little wet early and didn't get it planted just on time. But you're so right that it seems like things kind of even up. Now, I do know too that there were folks that said, "Hey, we had beans in the ground in good shape, but then we didn't have the heat, we didn't have the sun, and there was that cold stretch." So I know that actually kind of stunted things a little bit. But by and large, we're looking at a solid crop again. And if we can keep this rain coming at us here on a timely basis, I think we're in good shape.
All right, let's move on to a few of the federal issues that are going to affect Iowa farmers. Of course, we know the reconciliation bill situation. Obviously, there's news there. Talk about a little bit about what's going on, again, having to use that bill maybe as a vehicle for some of the necessary things that should have been in a farm bill that should have already been in place.
Yeah, I feel obligated to say every time I talk about this, I wish that we were talking about a comprehensive 5-year farm bill instead of trying to figure out what's in and what's out of the budget reconciliation process, and then what might we have to do on a cleanup or a skinny farm bill later, which can be very, very difficult just by scheduling purposes, but also just trying to get that, that coalition of folks that want to get that across the line. So, but this is where we are, and I think we have to be realistic. So, of course, you've got a House version of the big reconciliation bill, and then you've got the Senate Agriculture Committee working on their piece of it, and that'll have to be rolled in. So, and then of course you're going to have to reconcile those two, conference those two bills at some point. So we're a long ways from the finish line in terms of knowing what's actually in. But I have to tell you that as I just kind of reading a little bit this morning on kind of what's in the latest version, and certainly from a a tax standpoint, bonus depreciation, 199A, 45Z. There are some good things that are in this in the bill. Of course, we're looking at those commodity reference prices and all of that. Of course, then you've got a budget process that's coming, an appropriations process that's coming behind. I mean, it's really an active time and just trying to sort through what's in and what's out. Of course, the SNAP situation and cost share for states and all of that really is kind of dominating that discussion about can the Senate version go or not. So look, it's just a moving target right now, and we're working with our delegation and trying to advocate as best we can for the pieces that we know are so important. But again, we're a long ways from the finish line. Even when the Senate bill gets done, then you've got to kind of bring some things together here. So a lot of work yet to do.
What are you hearing then from our coalition of Congress people? Because, you're talking about we're coming up on June 30th, and we're a long ways to go on the reconciliation, which is kind of a patch job because of the fact we don't have a farm bill.
Right.
We're talking about a skinny version of a farm bill, but that decision has to be made in about 3 months, and we don't even know how long it's going to take to get the patch job done. I mean, what kind of is there a sense of urgency that they're hearing in Congress from our delegation at all?
Oh gosh, yes. I mean, we definitely are saying, again, best case scenario is we would have had that 5-year piece, that 5-year farm bill put together, and it should have happened last year. Should have happened the year before. I mean, let's be honest. And so, gosh darn it, we got to learn these things, and we gotta push. That's why we've been talking about so much urgency the last couple of years. But again, I can sit here and talk about that. We can talk about how we prefer, what we prefer to be the case, and the reality is this is where we are. And I do think that because that 5-year farm bill, that last farm bill was written so long ago, so much has changed. We really do need to push forward with whatever we can get. And the tax component, the tax pieces in the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, those are critically important for Americans, the American economy, but also specifically for agriculture. And so those are huge pieces. So look, I think we just got to take this in a stepwise fashion, get this piece done, be thinking about then what has to go into another vehicle, another bill. And frankly, we need to be thinking about the next 5-year comprehensive farm bill. And it won't be too long, and that'll have to be talked about. So look, we're just going to have to kind of sort through the process here.
And of course, earlier this month, we finally got word on RVOs from
Yes.
EPA. Talk about that, what that's going to mean for Iowa here going forward.
Well, good news, right? First of all, that's another thing that just talk about needing to bring certainty and timely decisions from the federal government. This is something that, EPA for the last several years has just been behind. They're late. They don't get it done. So one, just to have numbers out is a good thing. Having a commitment that they want to be on schedule is a good thing. And then you look at the numbers themselves. Of course, you're never going to get me to say that I was satisfied with the ethanol number, because of course I'm always looking for whatever it is plus, but in practical reality it's a good strong number. And of course the overall number is bigger than ever before. The biomass based biodiesel component, or the biomass based piece, is bigger than folks even expected. So I mean, there's some real good stuff in this RVO announcement. Of course, the other thing that's hanging out there that I guess it doesn't give me concern. It's just that we all need to be watching it and be aware of it, and certainly we're advocating for it. Is the administration still has to deal with or pick a path on dealing with small refinery exemptions, and there's a significant number out there that are still awaiting a decision. And of course, there are very legitimate reasons that some entities, some refineries may need that exemption. But what we don't want to see is that those gallons, those obligations are just let out the back door, that they get reassigned, if you will, that the overall push for inclusion of biofuels is still maintained, that the integrity of the program, the intent is there, and that we don't just let it out the back door by granting waivers. And so that's the other piece, that the RVO is strong. We like it. There's some really good tax pieces, some that are supportive of the industry, but those small refinery exemptions are the next kind of shoe to drop, if you will, that we need to be certainly watching.
And that again was Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Naig. We'll take a short break and hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. When we come back, we'll look at the closing numbers. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net. We're back on Ag Matters PM, and it's time to talk right now with Curt Kimmel of agmarket.net. And Curt, we're just ahead of the big reports on Monday, and what did we see come out of those Friday markets?
Well, some stabilization for a change. Usually Fridays are down, but corn finished up 6 to 8 cents on the daily chart. Soybeans 5 to 9 cents. The wheat market up 4 cents. But man, you look at that weekly chart where we were last week. Corn down 9 to 14 cents a bushel. Soybeans 30 to 39 cents lower, and the wheat market down 43 cents in the July Chicago wheat. So daily good, weekly not so good. First notice day, we saw quite a bit of liquidation here in the July futures contracts. Delivery notices come out over the weekend, so we'll see how that squares up a lot of liquidation. But as you mentioned there, Monday, two major reports. The grain stocks report, expecting corn stocks to be 4.6 billion bushels. That's about 350 million bushels less than last year at this time. But the market's about 70 cents lower, so figure that out. Bean stocks as of June 1, 980 million bushels. That's up about 10 million from a year ago. But, we'll see where those come in. The big other estimate is going to be the acreage estimate. Corn acres expected to be about 95.3 million acres. That's up almost 5 million from last year. Soybean acres 83.6, and that's down about 4 million from last year. As you know, Dustin, man, you try to get an acreage estimate June 1st when guys are still trying to get the crop in the grounds, virtually impossible. So that's whatever numbers we see here on those acres will probably be revised or resurveyed down the road, because there's quite a few areas still struggling to try to get that crop in 1st of June there.
Yeah, that there were. We even saw that in some areas here in northern Iowa with the cold and the wet. It's just the way it played out. Now, on to the livestock side of things, well, cattle seem to have had a really good day today. You want to talk about what happened for those cattle and hogs, actually?
Yeah, for the livestock group, lower grain prices. Hopefully we can keep that feed cost fairly reasonable. As far as the cattle go, it's like a bottle rocket all of a sudden again. 4th of July is not till next week, but futures were up anywhere from $3.40 to $4 on the weekly chart, up about $2, $3, $4. Hog-wise, mixed bag. Futures closed mixed on the weekly chart. Hogs closed mixed. Big thing is we had the hog and pig report out. Just some slightly higher numbers than what they were looking for. So they kind of struggled a little bit, but stabilized here as we went into the close. The biggest thing on the livestock sector, well, two things. One is the tariff, world trade, but also a week from now is 4th of July. We'll see how the clearance goes. Stuff's already been processed and moved. Now it's just a matter of see how that 4th of July clearance goes, and just let me know what time you're firing up the grill, Dustin.
You know, you're the second person this week to ask me what time I'm cooking and what I'm cooking. So I guess there's a party that I did not know about, but everybody's invited. So we'll go ahead and do that. But Curt, if folks want to talk to everybody at agmarket.net to get some more market information, what's the best way to get in touch?
For some reason, I just got a feeling you're pretty good at grilling. But anyway, if you can't make Dustin's, you can come to give us a call at 1-800-779-1515 or go to agmarket.net and click on Intel.
All right, Curt. Well, we'll grill you up something here. Definitely, that's for sure. But thanks so much for the insight, and we will talk to you again real soon.
Have a good weekend.
And that was Curt Kimmel of agmarket.net. Let's go ahead and take a look at how the numbers ended today on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network market screen. You can find it online at iowaagnet.com. At the close, July corn was up 8 at 4.17 and a half. Soybeans up a nickel at 10.27 3/4. Soybean meal up 20 cents at 271.10. Soy oil was down 7 cents at 52.45. Chicago wheat up 3 3/4 at 5.24 3/4. Kansas winter wheat down 2 1/4 at 5.16 even. So spring wheat up 5 1/2 at 6.04 1/2. Minneapolis spring wheat up 1 1/4 at 6.08 even. Oats up 20 cents at 3.85 1/4. On the Merc, live cattle up $4.10 at $213.30. Feeders up $4.60 at $307.90. Lean hogs up 92 cents at $113.25. Pork cutouts unchanged at $121.55. And Class 3 milk up 39 cents. And that's been a check of our closing market recap, and that brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all our content online at iowaagnet.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, X, and here on the YouTube channel. While you're there, subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can be notified each time we put out a new video project. Also, don't forget about the Free Market Podcast, replays of Iowa Ag Matters, and the Weekend Ag Matters program, our long-running half-hour weekend show. You can find all of that under the podcast tab, iowaagnet.com, or get them delivered right to your mobile device through Amazon, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and Podbean. From the IARN studios in Des Moines, I'm Dustin Huffman. For Andy Peterson, Mark Magnuson, Ashton Jolly, and Riley Smith, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.